Welcome back to ITA511. This week we're going to be doing tobacco importations. A little more complicated than alcohol importations, especially cigars. If you think an alcohol importation is wild with two lines, wait till you see a cigar importation. All right, so tobacco is an item that is highly regulated in Canada, and it's one of the most highly taxed products in Canada. It is imported into Canada, but also in Canada. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes without a health warning on it. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes that doesn't prove that there isn't proof that the excise duty has been paid on those cigarettes, and I'll show you how we prove that in a bit. So because it's highly expensive, a carton of cigarettes is $142 approximately. For 10 packs of cigarettes, it's very expensive. Because of that expensive situation and the fact that they're highly regulated, it's caused a lot of smuggling. So a lot of people make a lot of money smuggling cigarettes from the United States into Canada because the cigarettes are cheaper because the excise duty isn't applied. One of the reasons why we pay excise duties and customs duties on these items is to offset the fact that if you smoke, you have a higher chance of interacting with the healthcare system than if you didn't. So in the old days, we used to see advertisements for cigarettes in print. These are magazines for De Maurier and Craven A, two Canadian brand cigarettes. Or you'd hear radio ads, television ads. These were banned, so you cannot advertise cigarettes, and you can't even sponsor a golf tournament or a car race. Strictly regulated here in Canada. You can't do those things. As well as those regulations, you have to have these warnings on the pack of cigarettes. As you can see, it's the same size as the logo of the pack of cigarettes. This will change. Pretty soon this logo can only say in plain black letters, Players. It cannot have this logo with the navy cut sailor on it. So they're even regulating it more to make it less attractive to smoke. Alright, so duties and taxes account for much 75% of the retail price of tobacco. And like I said, it's very expensive, about $14 a pack. Excise duty is paid regardless if you import the cigarettes or you are in Canada and you're manufacturing the cigarettes and selling them in Canada. Either way, the excise duty gets applied. What we are going to deal with in this class is the imported tobacco products, cigarettes and cigars. And also, like I've shown you, marking requirements required that the health hazard be pointed out and the risks be pointed out with cigarettes. And the imported cigarettes have to have that same health warning on it in order for it to clear customs. So the excise stamp was used in the old days. This is a pack of De Maurier cigarettes, Canadian cigarettes. I showed you the advertisement before. The excise stamp was used to certify that the cigarettes had the appropriate excise duty paid. As you can see, the stamp went over the top of the pack of cigarettes so that when you bought the pack of cigarettes, you knew the excise duty had been paid to the government. These are legal cigarettes. When you opened the cigarettes, you ripped the stamp. You had to actually rip the stamp in order to open it. Nowadays, in the modern world, excise stamp is a little different. There's a yellow yellow strip, and what you do is you pull this to take the cellophane off the pack of cigarettes, and it tells you that these cigarettes were duty paid to the Canadian government and to the Ontario government, and they're a legal pack of cigarettes. Now, not only is there excise duty on alcohol and tobacco, there's also excise duty on cannabis. marijuana and marijuana products. And this is an actual duty paid, excise duty paid stamp for some cannabis products. So if you buy a cannabis product and you see this stamp, that you know that it got the excise duty was paid, and it's a source of revenue for the government. Not only do we have cigarette importations with the excise duty, we have cigars, and some famous cigar smokers. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Great Britain during World War II, was famous for his cigars. Fidel Castro, smoking a Cuban cigar. He was the leader of Cuba since 1959 to his death. And a famous Hollywood actor named Groucho Marx. His trademark cigar was part of his act. He was in a group called the Marx Brothers during the 1930s, and then he later, on his own, had his own television shows later on. So these are some famous cigar smokers, and a lot of famous people nowadays smoke cigars as well. So with cigars, same thing. Here we have a box of cigars. That it's from my desk. I use it to hold things on my desk. Actually, you're going to see what I hold in this box of cigars in a minute. And here we have, across here, Canada, 25 cigars, series of 1915. This is old, obviously. And this stamp tells you that the cigars inside this box were excise duty paid. Now check this out. On the back of the box, you'll notice there's a stamp, and the stamp says that this box was excise duty paid, okay, and that once this box is empty, once the person in the store is this company right here, not to cut it off, but it was a general merchandise in St. Jacobs, Ontario, which is north of Kitchener. Once he sold all these cigars, he had to destroy the box. And obviously he did not destroy the box, because 100 years later, I'm still holding on to it. But nevertheless, it's good for educational purposes. And as well, inside the box, pardon my junk, it says, caution, all cigars in this box should be stamped Bachelor, and the government penalty for putting other cigars in this box, in other words, another brand of cigars in this box, is a $200 fine. Now, a $200 fine in 1915 is quite expensive. So, as I say, cigars are highly regulated as well. As a matter of fact, you have to have this excise stamp. You can see the excise stamp wraps all the way around the back of the box. That has to be on there to prove that the excise duty was paid as well. Now, this is some other brands of cigarettes. Under Section 87 of the Indian Act, goods made and sold to reserves, including cigarettes, are exempt from taxation. So, now these cigarettes are actually made on the reserve. And the Indian Reserve, where the Aboriginal people live, around here is west of Hamilton, a place called Six Nations of the Grand River. And if you go there, you'll see this factory. And inside this factory, they're manufacturing, not necessarily these brands of cigarettes, but they are manufacturing cigarettes inside the reserve. And you can go to a store inside the reserve and buy cigarettes that do not have excise duty paid on them, because they're made inside the reserve, and people who live inside the reserve, who are Aboriginals of Canada, don't have to pay the tax. So they sell them to us at a cheaper price by us driving into the reserve and buying the cigarettes. These cigarettes are still illegal. You can't, if you're caught with these cigarettes, you can get a fine from the police because the excise duty was not paid. If you buy them here, that's no big deal, but you have to smoke them there in order for them to be legal. So Canada has a real problem with this, and they want to make sure that any cigarettes that are imported has the appropriate excise duty paid.
So let's take a look at the rates of customs and excise duties on cigarettes and cigars. So cigarettes, the most favored nation customs duty is 12.5%. And the unit of measure for the duty line is MIL, which we learned is thousands. So we'll show you how we do this when we do the B3. But let's say the answer is 1,000 cigarettes. You don't put 1,000 in the unit quantity. The unit of measure is MIL. You put 1 MIL because that's one group of thousands. So anyways, we'll show you how to do that when we get into the B3. The excise duty is a little different. The excise duty, and this is the current rate as of April 1st, 2022. The excise duty rate is 0.74470 cents. So it's almost 75 cents per 5 cigarettes. So it's not per cigarette, it's per 5 cigarettes. So the unit of measure is a bit different than normal. The unit of measure for the excise duty is NMB, but the NMB doesn't mean number of cigarettes, it means number of units of 5 cigarettes. So here's an example. Let's say we have a shipment of 200,000 cigarettes. So that's, for 200,000 cigarettes, that would be 200 MIL for the customs duty line up here, because that's 200,000. So 200,000. The same 200,000 cigarettes for the excise duty line is different because we have to have the number of groups of 5 cigarettes. So if we have 200,000 cigarettes divided by 5, we have 40,000 groups of 5 cigarettes. So the answer would be 40,000 NMB for the excise duty line of the B3. So cigarettes are 2 lines. First line is for the customs duty. Second line is for the excise duty, just like we did with the alcohol entries. Cigars are a different story. So a cigar B3 is 3 lines. So the first line is the customs duty, just like normal. The customs duty is 8%. The unit of measure is MIL, which is thousands. Next is the excise duty, which is $32.41649 per 1,000 cigars. Very, very expensive. So the excise duty is $32.41649 per $1,000, and the unit of measure is MIL, thousands, which makes sense. So that's fine. Then there is another excise duty, because on cigars there is an additional excise duty of 0.11652 per cigar, or 88% of the duty paid value, whichever is highest. And let me tell you right now, the 88% is always highest. You'd have to have a lot of very cheap cigars to only have this particular excise duty rate to be applied. The excise duty rate you'll probably have to apply is the 88% of the duty paid value. And again, it's a different way of calculating this. When I say duty paid value, it means the value of the goods, the customs duty, and the excise duty added together times 88% to get the additional excise duty. And the unit of measure for the additional excise duty is thousands as well, MIL. Okay? So next what we'll do is we'll do an actual B3 tobacco entry.